That is symptomatic of the fact that America is facing an epidemic of addiction to opioids like heroin and prescription painkillers. As of 2015, an estimated 2.6 million Americans were addicted to them, and they're now involved in almost 30,000 overdose deaths a year in the US. And the prevalence of this problem astonishes some people. Just listen to Donald Trump up in New Hampshire.
They said the biggest single problem they have up here is heroin. And I said, how does heroin work with these beautiful lakes and trees and all of the beautiful... It doesn't.
Yeah, it does, though. So tonight, we're going to look at one of the major causes of this crisis, prescription painkillers, which are chemical cousins of heroin. Around 75% of heroin users started with a prescription opioid, drugs like OxyContin, Vicodin and Percocet, which some take recreationally and others take as prescribed by a doctor. But however it starts, it can get out of hand fast.
One time I was hurting so bad that I ended up punching a 4x4 and breaking all 3 of these fingers and this bone to get pain meds from my doctor. I did that several times.
So you'd hurt yourself in order to go to a doctor?
I had 9 teeth pulled out of my head for prescriptions.
At the time, that's how my
To get a prescription?
Yeah. I've been with, like, groups of people where they've taken, like, bats to their wrists.
Broke arms
easily.
I mean, how many people do know someone that's died of overdose from... Everybody.
This is happening everywhere. The odds are, right now, you probably know someone who is struggling or who has died from an opioid addiction. Some towns have been devastated. Just 2 months ago, in and around Huntington, West Virginia, 28 overdoses occurred in one 5-hour span. And given their risks, it's kind of amazing how freely doctors have prescribed them, because there are a lot in circulation.
We have currently nearly 250 million prescriptions for opioids written every year. That's enough for every adult in America to have a bottle of pills, and then some.
A nuanced discussion between the medical community about the complexities of pain treatment is clearly important. The problem is, that discussion became dominated by the pharmaceutical industry, who started amplifying the message that opioids should not just be used for acute pain, like that from cancer or surgery, but for all sorts of pain, like arthritis and backaches, which makes sense as a motive coming from the pharma industry. End-of-life pain care is a narrow business. It's hard to make a lot of money off of a product exclusively marketed to people who are close to death. Honestly, I don't know how Fox News even does it. I have no idea. It's a mystery. Volume, I guess, but I don't know. And within the pharma industry, the loudest voice was Purdue. In 1996, they released the blockbuster drug OxyContin, and they marketed it to doctors aggressively, giving out swag like fishing hats, swing music CDs bearing the slogan, "Swing in the right direction with OxyContin," and Oxy-branded stuffed plush toys. Purdue also distributed inspirational videos like "I Got My Life Back," featuring 7 patients whose lives were turned around by the magic of OxyContin. It wasn't just uplifting stories. Other Purdue videos sought to reassure patients who might have been nervous about taking such a strong drug.
Less than 1% of patients taking opioids actually become addicted.
Less than 1%. And I know it may seem like they are pulling that number out of their arse, but they actually pulled it out of the letters to the editor section of the New England Journal of Medicine. Seriously, this is it. That paragraph is the whole thing. It wasn't peer-reviewed, and it was only about short-term use of opioids in hospitals, but it became the main source for that 1% claim. And Purdue's overall message of a quick, easy cure for pain was very appealing, especially for primary care doctors who might only have 15 minutes to treat a patient. So it is no wonder that by the year 2000, doctors were writing nearly 6 million OxyContin prescriptions per year, and its sales were more than even Viagra. And even the stars of Purdue's "I Got My Life Back" video were not immune from this trend, because a later investigation discovered 2 out of the 7 of them died as active opioid abusers, and that grandmother you saw earlier became addicted and nearly lost everything. And look, it wasn't just Purdue pushing the envelope. Cephalon paid a $444 million settlement for over-marketing drugs, and Insys has been investigated for some of its practices surrounding a drug they made containing fentanyl, an opioid which can be 100 times more powerful than morphine. Their drug is only approved for cancer patients, but Insys is accused of not just pushing it for non-cancer patients, but even helping convince insurance companies to pay for it. But at a certain point, the question has to become less, what did we do wrong, and more, what do we do now? Because these drugs are still the most effective solution for certain types of pain, and many patients need them, so we can't get rid of them, but we have to be much more careful about how they're prescribed. And to their credit, the CDC issued voluntary guidelines this year suggesting doctors use non-opioid therapies when possible and, if and when one is needed, to start patients with a lower dose and a shorter supply, a technique that they call start low and go slow. Unfortunately, not all areas of the country have access to alternative pain treatments.
It's easy to say use some non-opioid alternative, but in a lot of rural areas, patients don't have access to things like physical therapy and mindfulness meditation, and insurance companies won't pay for it.
And that is a big problem. But we cannot just work to prevent future addicts. We're going to need to do more to help the millions that already exist, which means more investment in treatment programs, as well as increasing the availability of drugs like naloxone, commonly used in a nasal spray to rescue people from overdoses. Because, as this firehouse makes clear, it is a tool that they use with depressing frequency. Point is, there is no one simple answer here. Not all opioid addicts will respond to the same treatment, and not all people in pain will find relief from alternative therapies. This is going to take a massive effort and a significant investment. It won't be cheap, it won't be quick, and it won't be easy.